The information in this broadcast is for educational purposes only and is not provided as a professional service, medical advice, or is it intended or implied to be a substitute for diagnosis or treatment. You are encouraged to confirm any information obtained from this broadcast with other sources and review all information regarding any medical condition or treatment with your physician and other appropriate healthcare providers.
Hi, I'm Pete Levine. Welcome to Noggins and Neurons, Stroke and TBI Recovery Simplified. I'm a clinical instructor and clinical researcher. I've co-authored dozens of scientific journal articles about brain injury recovery, and I'm also the author of the book Stronger After Stroke.
I'm Deborah Battistella, occupational therapist, creator of the OT's Guide to Mirror Therapy, and an OT educator. I have a lot of experience working with survivors. Most of my clinical practice has been in a certified stroke center. Pete and I are especially interested in talking about what rehab, neuroscience, and clinical research all have to say about the brain and recovery. But don't worry, our job is to make this stuff simple.
We're here to make it so that everyone, clinicians, clinical students, caregivers, and most importantly, the survivor, understands what it takes to leverage their great neuroplastic brain for recovery.
This podcast began with both Pete and I, two kindred souls with a passion for moving the recovery process forward. If you've started listening more recently, say since the beginning of 2022, you likely noticed that Pete is absent from conversations. This is because he had a rather unexpected and abrupt departure from this earthly plane. Pete's voice remains in the intro in reverence to and respect for his part of our joint vision for this project. Simply put, it wouldn't be where it is today, nor have a future without him. Now, on to another great conversation.
And he was just so entertaining to listen to and so goofy and just very much an outside of the box thinker. And what I loved about Pete is that he was so able to succinctly organize how to treat neuro. It's just, those three principles that he kind of went over and over and over. And it's like, yes, there's so many studies, there's so many things you can do, but keep it interesting, do it a billion times, and make sure it's meaningful. That's it. That's like at the end of the day, that's everything.
Exactly. That is it in a nutshell. In this episode, I chat with Doro and Lynette from the Neuro Hub in Altamonte, Florida. Before he left, Pete told me he wanted them to step in where he was leaving off. For sure, those are some pretty big shoes to fill. Our conversation is all over the place, like old friends sitting around the table, reminiscing about our dear friend and colleague. We discussed neurogems we learned from Pete and implications for practice, carrying on his legacy and some of our fears. We had moments of laughter and somber pauses as well. We wound the conversation down with some wisdom, trial and error, and thinking outside the box, all within clinical reasoning, of course. If you're wanting to support the podcast, consider getting the Noggins And Neurons Allstar Pete trading card for a $20 donation. The link for that is in the show notes. I have the cards in my possession, and they're pretty cool. All cards come in a penny sleeve and a top loader, the way you would package any valuable sports trading card. Now, Doro and Lynette. Enjoy.
So gifted in that way.
Yeah, he was.
He's looking at my little notes. Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah, so these are my biggest takeaways from learning from Pete in this course. There's so many more, but these are the ones that I literally wrote in my workshop notes. Save the penumbra, number one, underscored several times. No, but I found this quote because I was like, well, if for those who don't know who might be listening, what the heck is the penumbra? So I found this quote from neurology.org, and I just love it. It's, the penumbra is the part of the brain that is sandwiched between brain regions committed to die and those that receive enough blood to communicate. So it's like right in between, right in that sweet spot. So yeah. Use tense for initial recovery. 1,200 minimum number of reps to be effective.
Amen.
Yeah. So one of the big things he kept saying is, whatever you're doing in therapy is likely good. Just do a lot more of it. Just do a ton of it. Oh, yeah. And then in order to trigger neuroplasticity, you have to have someone fully engaged, something meaningful, salient, challenging, and repetitive. So, I mean, those are the things I really take with me. And I felt confident going into neuro with those little tools in my toolkit from Pete.
And then she met me. It was all over.
What?
And then you met me.
No, and then I met you, and I got to actually do all those things. And I was like, what? This is so amazing. I mean, I actually got to put into practice the things that Peter had talked about that you wouldn't normally get to do in any other setting. It was like the perfect
storm.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Look, we're finishing each other's sentence once again.
Finishing each other's sandwiches.
Yes. We do that too.
LOL.
We do that too.
So it's like somebody made a comment in the Noggins and Neurons Facebook group about Pete and I being kindred spirits. And
Stop. No, I'm sorry, Deb. I have to stop you really quick. These are Doro's notes, and she literally wrote kindred spirits. No, that same word. I had to stop you. I didn't mean to. I'm terrible at.
Yeah, but one sentence that I wrote, the word that comes to mind is kindred spirit.
When did you write that?
Literally 10 minutes before the podcast.
5 minutes ago. Because I was like, I don't even know what to talk about. I told Lynette, like, I feel like I really knew Pete, yet I don't know him. I can't speak about him, yet I knew him on a different level. Like, I connected with him. I just don't have a lot to say about him. So I just wrote down the word that comes to mind was kindred spirit.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it is wild.
Yeah.
I think so. When I was thinking about that just now, like, I feel like that's who we've attracted. I feel like that's what Noggins and Neurons is. It's a bunch of kindred spirits, all connected together. Yeah. That kind of stuff, just like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. That's so crazy that you said that very word.
But it's so good. But it's funny. It was like from the moment we met you and Pete. Yeah. It was just, there was no guard up, no trying to impress.
No, it was like instant connection.
Instant like being us, goofing off, you know. Yeah.
I think you can attest to this probably more than either of us, but Pete felt very much like he was himself. Like, he knew exactly who he was, exactly what his mission was here. And he just did it and enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah. He was one of those people who was just very comfortable in his own skin. Yeah. He knew who he was and just made no apologies for that.
Exactly. And I think that's why we connected with him so much. I mean, for me, like the moment I heard him speaking and, was at that course, I was like, he is amazing. I want to do everything he does. How can I eventually work in research with him? And then I thought to myself, okay, baby steps. So like when the opportunity 2 years later came to do a Zoom and then a podcast with him, I was like, this is crazy. It was literally just stars aligning. But yeah, he definitely attracted some really interesting people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that makes me eager to know, like, who else Pete knew? Who else was in Pete's cool circle?
I know, right?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
First, I have a question. Who keeps hitting the thumbs up?
Not me.
My hands are under the table.
You know what? I wonder if, like because
You
you're
know, when you're moving your hands,
I
it's
think
like
that's what
she's
it
raising her
is.
hand.
No, I
Yeah.
think that's what it is.
Yeah, I think that's part of the Zoom thingy. But
Oh, ew, that's
yeah.
weird. I'll keep my hands down.
We're gonna do constraint-induced movement therapy now, bilateral, so she doesn't raise her hands.
No, sorry.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Pete. Every time we say something cool about him, we get a thumbs up.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's
Oh,
yeah, I like
that
it.
could be it
Yeah.
too. That's
Mhm.
cool.
I dig it.
It's pretty fun.
What are some of the things that are like being planned to kind of honor his memory and legacy?
Oh, that's a good
That's a big
question.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm thinking, I don't know, but what if, we did like a little like convention or I don't know, just like get together of like-minded cool therapists, almost like just a weekend retreat or something. I don't know, something to bring all those cool like-minded people together.
I feel like we need to start making some money. Make that happen.
It'll be fun. It'll be a good time.
I know.
$1
We
million.
get a tiny convention center. It's nothing big.
Nothing big. No. You are such a much bigger thinker than me. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Just the sky's the limit. That's another thing that I loved about Pete so much is that it was like, it doesn't matter what you do, just get it moving. Just keep trying all the things until you find something that works and keep doing that. And that's another thing that I feel like gelled with us so much is we're so outside of the box. We're willing to like do whatever it takes to get things moving again.
Yeah, we do the crazy
And
stuff.
movement, one of my favorite quotes of his is movement is progress irrespective of function. The function will come, just get the movement going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always loved when he said, don't make the perfect the enemy of the good.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that
Love
was
one.
really important for me because I have a problem with perfectionism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not so much anymore. I feel like I've learned from him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What I really enjoyed about him during our podcast was that he just sat back
And watch sometimes.
He was the silent observer. He just listened. But there's a difference between listeners and listeners, and he got it. I mean, he was in it. He was listening. So I feel like
you would see him kind of like sit back sometimes and just kind of
he wasn't
observe
zoning
what's
out.
happening.
He was just
You could see the wheels and
listening with intent. Yes, and that's such a big one. I feel like that's definitely something I've learned from him, or remind myself listening with intent instead of just listening to sound and
blurting out the first thing that comes to mind, like I do.
No, I still do that.
I'm really glad you said that because that's one of the things that at some point I wanted to talk about, and I'll just talk about it now. I felt like, how, let's go back to how you said you felt like you've known him.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of how I felt too. He's that kind of person that you just feel
Yeah.
like you've known your whole life. And so it was helpful for starting a podcast and doing this thing with this person that you don't really know, but you feel like you know, so it's okay. There were times though when I noticed he would do that. He would sit back in his chair posture, and it was almost like he was listening with that intent, but also proud that
Yes.
like
I
the dots are connecting and you get what he gets.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it.
That's exactly how I felt during the first podcast, where I kept looking at the screen and I just saw him kind of leaning back a little bit in his chair and he's settling into the leather of his chair, and it just clicked. Just like, yep, he understands what I'm saying, even though it doesn't make sense, but he gets it, and I get him, or we get him. Yeah, it was just so cool.
Yeah, and like he's letting you take the reins too. Like I got that vibe. Like when he's just sitting back, he's like, "Yep, you got this.
Go with it." Yeah.
Yeah, there's a level of encouragement in all of that.
Yes,
and trust.
And
exactly.
Oh, definitely.
There was trust. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
I
know.
wouldn't let anybody like run loose like that.
No, I was just thinking like there's so many like times I'm like, oh, I wonder, like I would love to ask Pete that question, you know, like, oh, when that happens. Yeah.
I
It's
know.
like, or
We
he'll-
were, I feel like we were supposed to have a few more times of that,
right.
but I guess not.
And what are we to do now? Because we have to do something with his legacy.
Hmm. Oh, I think we are. What'd you say?
Something big.
Oh, I thought you said son of a bitch.
I mean, that's definitely appropriate too. You know, that's
Your thumbs up again.
I know. Come on, Pete, where are you?
that's so funny.
Oh, subtle
Mhm.
bitch. I love it.
Yeah.
I have to put parental advisory on this one.
Yeah,
I was like,
She said it, not me.
no, I didn't.
They're fighting like children.
As per usual.
Always keeps things interesting.
Yeah, put the fun back in function.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel like that's a general neuro one.
Yeah. I'm looking at my
Your
little
notes?
margin notes. I love this so much. This one in particular. Yeah.
I feel
No,
like
go ahead.
Pete also was an honorary OT practitioner
Oh, for sure.
because
Like that's
it's almost like he had more of an OT mind than a PT
Mhm.
mindset, I should say. Mhm.
definitely. There was one class or another class I took with a speech therapist, and she's like, you know what? Your brain doesn't know the difference. Recovery is recovery.
Right. I know. We
At
spend
the
all
end of
this
the
time
day.
arguing, well, that's an occupational therapy thing.
Yeah.
No, PT should be doing that.
Right.
Maybe we all should be doing that.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I love that so much. I was like, you know what? That's really true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the brain doesn't know the difference.
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Just do all the things that work. Just keep trying.
Keep going.
Mhm. So, do you remember how you learned of Pete?
Me, I learned of Pete from a summit course. So he was offering, the class was specifically called Neuroplasticity and Neurological Disorders, presented by Peter Levine, RA, BA, PTA, AAS. And I was like, that sounds interesting. And it was in Miami, or it was in Kendall, actually. And I was like, I have family there. Perfect. So I
Okay.
went down to that course, and that's how I met him. And the rest is history.
And the rest is history. Mm.
Really good history.
I keep trying to figure out how I ended up with his book. I don't know. Like I
Wait,
don't.
what do you mean?
So that's how I met him, through his book.
Oh.
Did somebody give it to you? One of your
No.
clients? No. Interesting.
No,
It
I must
just-
have found it on Amazon or something. Who
Mhm.
knows? I've used it for so long, but I just don't remember how I came to learn
Mhm.
of it. And yeah, like I just one day was so sick of not being able to move forward because of my own head with the stuff that I wanted to do. So I just thought, well, just email him. I really didn't think he'd email me back.
And he did. And
He
what did he
did,
say?
yeah. He was like, well, I've got some OTs I can ask. I'll get back to you. And then whoever he asked was not interested in
Oh.
helping me in any way. My question was really more about HIPAA and how to deliver my content. But I said, that's okay, because I had a lot of OT input anyway. So I just kind of let it go. And then a couple days later, I had a thought about just maybe circumventing the practitioners, and maybe I should just deliver this to survivors. So I emailed that to him, and he said maybe we should have a Zoom call. I
So
know.
cool.
So we had a Zoom call.
And
I know.
then-
And then I thought he asked me to do a podcast, and I wasn't sure. It's so
Uh-huh.
funny because
it was
I
subtle.
got off that call and I thought, was he really asking me to do that? Or did he, was he just kidding?
Like, oh, we should do lunch. Oh, we should do a podcast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he sent me a couple of talks that he had done, and I listened to them and I liked them. And then he asked again, so do you want to do a podcast? Not really. I was like, I don't think I can.
Why? You guys are so well suited together. I'm so glad you said yes. I mean, let me not spoil
I
it.
am too. Yeah, I am too. It was like that thing, where you're pushed so far out of your comfort zone, but you
Oh, yeah.
cannot say no because it is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
That's funny because that's exactly how I felt when you called me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Do you remember when you called me?
When Deb called you, tell me that story.
When I called you and told
me Pete wasn't well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt like that. I was like, oh wow, what an honor to be asked to carry on the podcast and work on it. But wow, can I even step up to it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we should probably explain this. So, I mean, I think it's a nice thing to share. Yeah. When Pete and I met, for him to tell me what was going on with him, quick thinking, what do we do? Like, I asked him, do you want the podcast to continue on? Yes. No doubt there. And he said that we needed a pinch hitter, maybe Doro and Lynette. And I was like, okay, I'll ask.
Oh, man. I feel like now we have to.
Well, I already said yes.
Well, it's interesting because he didn't mention anyone else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we said yes right away. So he knew we were going to say yes. He had us wrapped.
I know, right?
To carry on the podcast, to carry on the legacy.
Well, I don't know about the legacy. I mean, I got a little growing to do. But...
Well, I mean, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. I don't think that we need to push as hard as he pushed. I understand now what the mad dash was.
Yeah.
I didn't at the time, but I went with it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, his desire was always to empower the people, right? And to get as much content or, with the book and with the podcast to educate survivors themselves.
Yeah.
So with all that's, that he put out there with the book and the podcast, what do you think is left that he wanted still to share?
Well, that is a really good question because I didn't get to ask him that. But, I just stuttered. That was one of the things that we talked about before we actually got started with the podcast. He was concerned that there wouldn't be enough content. And so far, we keep having content.
More content.
And I feel like it will continue on as we learn, as
more things.
Yeah, as technology continues to evolve, to progress, and we learn more about the brain. I still feel like we know nothing about the brain compared to where we will be in 10, 15 years.
That's very true.
So I feel like there will be content out there that needs to be shared with survivors, family members, medical professionals.
I think beyond content, because the big problem still remains that practitioners are not doing what the research says works. And people struggle. And I shouldn't say not all practitioners. Many are. You are. And many are. But not enough are. And
I would say that's very fair, yeah.
Yeah. And people still need help with follow through. It's a big deal. And I think that that's where the legacy continues. Because even Dr. Teasel said it takes 20, 25 years for this stuff to be used. Maybe his legacy is through this podcast and through our efforts that it happens
sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get it out there, get it in people's hands. Yeah, no, that's very true. And it's such a shame too when the knowledge is out there, it's just not in practice.
Not applied.
Right.
Yeah.
And it does, you're absolutely right. Research is always 20 years behind.
But it would be so easy to apply.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard. There's
Well,
just so many.
in our setting,
that's the
it's
thing.
easy
It's
to
the
apply.
settings. Yes,
Yeah.
it's the settings.
It's the models for practice.
The models, correct, that limit the delivery big time. Yeah.
It certainly seems like some of those models are being exposed for the truth of what they are, which is very uncomfortable for some people. But that's when change can occur. So,
Correct. It's necessary.
mhm.
It's
It's not really anything to be afraid of.
No, we just have a new client that flew in to see us for a 3-week intensives, and he has been through all the big rehab hospitals in the many of the big rehab hospitals in the United States. And he had a stroke 6 years ago, and his wife told us that not once has a therapist been hands-on with them in their recovery.
At the level that we were. Yeah.
At the level, yeah, he would be set up on a machine or a robotic device or whatever. And then, okay, now pump out reps. But there was no foundational, hands-on type treatment whatsoever. No weight bearing, no sensory re-education, no more attention to the affected side, none of that.
Or functional task practice with the affected extremity. It was
Mhm.
all compensatory based.
Yeah. They taught him everything with the left, the right side is affected. So it was like, okay, this is how you tie your shoes one-handed, this is how you pull up your pants one-handed.
You're
That
good
was
to
it.
go.
Nobody ever said, let's look at the right side and see, we'll do a hand over hand. It's not going to be pretty. You're going to spill stuff, but who cares? So yeah, they're already thinking about coming back this year. But it just showed me again that it's so sad what's happening out there in rehab, in stroke rehab particularly. But there's just
the capacity to gain function is out there. It's just not readily available to clients.
Yeah, it's really limited.
To survivors. Yeah. Or just, so maybe that's our mission.
I think it is.
We'll feel it out. Well, I feel like when we align ourselves with what's supposed to be happening, things kind of just
fall into place.
Yeah.
Always.
Definitely.
100%. It's been happening with the podcast since.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't even. It's so undeniable. Interestingly, I feel like I am in some strange, not a time warp, but I just feel like I'm in a very interesting place in my life right now. It's almost like I have one foot in two different worlds. And learning to be okay with it and not pushing to get out of the one before it's time. It's really interesting.
Yeah, just gotta let it flow and let it happen.
And here I am seeing all of these possibilities. I'm making possibilities right now. It's like things are happening in this realm of occupational therapy, like where people live in the community. And there's so much changing right now. Like sometimes I have these thoughts, this is not unfolding fast enough, just throw in the towel. But that's probably my own insecurity with the next phase of expansion.
Yeah, it's scary out there.
It's
scary out there outside of outside of your comfort zone.
It is.
But that's where all the cool things happen.
Yeah,
I know.
Keep doing what you're doing. I feel like, we both have been in that boat. When I started the business, there was times where I didn't have a whole lot of clients, and I asked myself, like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I gave up a cushy job, a steady paycheck, but it's just, and then all of a sudden it just came one after another, and it just got bigger and bigger, and it made the decision for me. I didn't even have to, make that decision to jump ship or step out. It was just there.
Yeah, I know that.
It'll come. It'll come.
Yeah. And the thing is, at the college, with this campus-based fieldwork thing that I'm doing, I'm literally building programs. It's what I do. And it's like, it's blossoming so fast
Mhm.
right now. The whole college is bought into it.
Oh,
So now
nice.
so it's like,
Right,
and it's a
exactly.
gift.
It's leading you up
Yep.
there.
Trust the
Exactly.
process.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I tell the students. I make their little stones that say trust the process. I give them
That's
to them.
so cute.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Aw.
different story when you're in the process, though. Like, yeah.
That is very true. You're like, wait, what?
Hey, what would Pete say about all this?
Maybe that's our thing. What would Pete say? Instead of what would
Pete
Jesus
say?
do?
I don't know.
What would Pete say?
Yeah. We can use that. We should put that up on the wall.
Bracelets.
What would Pete say?
What would Pete say?
I can tell you what he would say.
Yeah.
What would he say?
First, save the penumbra.
Uh-huh.
Number 2, 1,200 more.
Mhm.
Number
Just get
3,
started.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was a nice
Yeah.
warm up.
That was a nice warm up.
Yeah.
I know.
Mhm. I remember he was telling a story about how he got all these TENS machines just to like try them out. And that was his whole thing, is like, just try them out. But like one of his sons got into them, I think he said, and they were like trying them on each other. And his whole point was that you can't really hurt yourself that much, like obviously use it with caution and your clinical judgment, but don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of the TENS and the eSTEM. But
Well, I've been afraid of those machines.
Yeah, me too.
Before.
I didn't really, I had been in practice for like 3 years, maybe 4, before I came here and really got to, get my hands on them and really utilize them to their full potential, or feel comfortable with them.
Yeah, because we as practitioners need repetition using this stuff. You can't use it and then expect 6 months later to be able to whip it out and know what you're doing. It's like you're relearning all over again.
Exactly.
Yeah, why bother? We'll do something else.
Oh my gosh, no. I remember the practice I was at before, the ultrasound and eSTEM machine literally had collected a layer of dust. Like no one touched it. It's so sad.
I know.
Yeah. I remember the same for me in the setting where I was at, which was a hospital-based outpatient setting.
That's crazy.
And I read about using eSTEM fresh out of school, so I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to find anybody that could explain anything to me.
Felt safe enough. Yeah.
Where to put it for a sublux shoulder. What settings and why? And my big thing was why. But why those settings? Explain it to me. Okay, I understand, but why? But why? Like a kid, like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And there was nobody there that could provide that education and guidance on using those techniques, evidence-based treatment.
Gosh, I know.
One STEM unit on the floor. That was it.
I worked for a company that had a company that they contracted with for all of those machines, and we would get training once a month on things.
Oh, cool.
And at the time when I had started working there, it was the perfect place to work because there were no productivity requirements. There was just whatever people needed. It was a dream. And so
I felt you're living it now.
No, I'm saying at that time, like what a dream it must have been for her to be in a traditional setting with no productivity. That's unheard of these days anyways. I'm sorry.
It is. And it's gone. It's gone now. I didn't work there that long before it started to change because the owner, it's when you've got these private businesses where the owners get it and they let it be that, and somehow they still make money, but when they're ready to retire, nobody seems to want to take it over. But during that time, I felt so supported, and I was given the time and the space to learn that stuff. But you got your book out and you got the other person there going, okay, I remember this and I remember that. So let's do this and let's do that. But it takes time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And nobody seems to want to give practitioners the time to learn this stuff.
and to really hone their craft into it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The time to breathe between clients,
Yeah, like maybe even just go to the bathroom.
Oh, you want to work and to go to the bathroom?
That's a little much.
I know.
That's a much.
You have to clock out for that one.
Listen, you're the one who told me to dream big.
Fair point.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think about that too. Like, what if you could design like the ideal recovery like facility, and you have things like gardening and like cooking and like therapists that were actually allowed to be therapists without productivity requirements.
Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? Let's keep going with that one.
Yeah.
It would be fun to have a place where people could stay over. So the person who comes for your 3-week intensive, they don't have to stay in a hotel. They can stay in your facility.
Right.
And they just come out of they go to their room when they need a rest, take their little nap, come back out and find something that will get those reps in the motion that they want.
Interesting to them. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, you guys are just
Okay, and then this one is kind of far-fetched, but like if they have to do any kind of repetitive physical activity, like let's say maybe ride a bike just to get their cardio up, to get that BDNF flowing in their brain, then maybe that generates some electricity for the building, I don't know.
I think that's a great idea.
Everyone think really big. Yes.
Oh, a water mill.
Yeah.
No,
a beautiful water mill. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Aquatic therapy.
Oh, that would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah, we can do
something like that.
Where is it?
What are you looking for?
I have a Pinterest board
called
like the big Neuro Hub clinic thing.
Neuro Hub big ideas.
Neuro Hub big. Yeah, look. Oh yeah. So this is it where it's hold on. Where is it? All in one.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What is that? Move that up a little bit.
Oh, well, don't say the name. I just have a picture of it.
Well, don't worry. It's not going on the podcast. I can bleep that out. I know how to do bleeps now, too.
Oh, yay.
Yes.
Yeah, I learned how to bleep.
Yes.
I mean, I'll have to read the directions again, but I know I can do.
That's good. New skill acquired.
Yeah, so why does it take so long to release an episode? Because I have to keep rereading the directions.
Oh, has it gotten easier?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Yes.
Just got to cue it up, on the time code, and then,
Oh, do you know how to do this?
I mean,
it's a time code.
Never mind.
Wait a minute, you know how to do it?
I know. We're going to explain.
I was in film school, so it can't be that hard to edit some audio. I edited tons of audio before, so that can't be.
And we're only learning about this now.
I know, I'm a little disgusted right now.
She said, how dare you be holding out on this information?
You just mark it on your timeline where you have the little bleep. You make a slice, you take it out, you blend it back, you fade it back in. Bam, bam, bam.
Oh my goodness.
Why is there a picture of a left foot accelerator in your book?
I don't remember. I didn't take a margin note on that. But
you drew it?
No, it's like a foot on an accelerator.
Active, passive. I think he was trying to explain like
active. You do it, and passive it brings you back.
Yeah. But I like how he has use it and lose it. Use the spastic muscles, lose the spasticity.
Which is funny because that was one of the principles in school. And even afterwards in rehab, that was a big no-no. It's like, oh, don't you squeeze the ball.
I remember.
Don't you use putty, big no-no. Until I learned later on that you use it more, you have
greater cortical representation in the brain.
Just finished each other's sandwich again.
I just couldn't help it. You weren't saying it fast enough.
Corn, okay? I can't speak that fast sometimes.
But yeah, and I remember
cortical representation. Correct.
Yeah.
And then with the cortical representation, you have more control over that area.
Correct.
and then the spasticity decreases.
Yes. And I remember, and I came, that was one of the things I had looked up, and I was like, can I do this? Can I please do this? And she's like, well, if you stretch them very, very much after, if you promise to work on the extensors, because, she was a little bit afraid that I would work the flexors and then get somebody stuck in flexion. But yeah.
Well, I guess that maybe the reason I was afraid to say yes to doing the podcast with Pete was because I didn't know as much as he knew. Well, I didn't know what he knew.
Just a
he
treasure
was
trove, yeah.
Yeah. And he was a researcher and I was a practitioner. I mean, I worked. But I was one of those people that thought, don't give them the squeezy ball. And I learned that during an episode that we did, and I'm okay. Like, it was okay to learn something in front of the whole world. I feel like that's a lot of what holds practitioners back is our fear.
Agreed. The fear of not knowing and admitting to it.
The fear of making a mistake.
Yeah.
Fear of looking silly.
Yeah.
All of this stuff, nothing happens.
Right.
I mean, yes, nothing bad happens. Something good happens.
Yeah, you learn something.
You learn something and you know what to do and you just do it differently going forward.
Right.
I would agree. I feel like that's not just an issue in therapy. I think that's a big issue in like a lot of medical fields, is that people are afraid to look silly or like they don't know something. So they just kind of continue on assuming that they do.
Yeah, it works this way. Why change it? If it ain't broken, don't try to fix it type mentality.
Except for it doesn't work. Except for it doesn't work. A lot of the things that we do don't work.
Exactly.
So what happened with the squeezy ball thing on the podcast?
Well, he was explaining that concept.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, I was that person.
You're like, those therapists, they know nothing.
Like, okay.
And what did Pete say?
and there was
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the episode.
I know. What was the other? So there was another time we were talking about, it had to do with spasticity, splinting, all the stuff. And I was like, this is not anything that I ever heard before. Like in my head, I'm trying to like process it. He's talking about it. What do I even say? I'm thinking about it. I'm learning something new. Oh my God, where do I begin? So the second time this came up, I had to ask again. And he's like, Deb, I know you want to fight about this. I'm like, I don't want to fight about it. I just want to understand it. Then I was just like, I'm pretty sure if I've been working this many years and I'm still at a loss, I'm pretty sure there are many other people who are still at a loss. So let's just talk about it, you know?
That's so funny. It's so true. That's what I mean. Like, there just needs to be more opportunities to discuss these kinds of ideas and ask these questions in that spirit that Pete had, where there's no wrong, questions. Just
there's
ask
no
them.
Judgment.
Just be curious.
Yes.
Yeah.
No judgment. It's like a neuro learning sandbox.
Just bring your ideas and your enthusiasm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doro's doing the Pete thing.
She's doing the Pete thing.
So Doro's leaning back in her chair.
I'm channeling Pete.
Pondering.
Right?
Thank you.
What are you pondering there?
Just listening.
Just listening. I'm just looking for any more gems. Oh, the playing of the music. That was another good thing. I mean, I feel like that was something I had done, but it felt very like reinforced and vindicated for doing so, is playing music that people love during therapy, during their treatments.
Oh, just playing it in the background.
Yeah, just playing in the background. It'll motivate them. It'll put them in a good mood, less depressed. Yeah.
Right now we have a lot of Tom Petty and
not Tom
Young.
Yeah, Neil Young.
There's Tom Petty, Neil Young, Simon and Garfunkel.
A lot of 70s, right?
Yeah. It'll be fun when I'm ever in rehab. It'll be a lot of Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and
playing the classics.
The Busta Rhymes.
Play some Busta Rhymes. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Mhm.
Good old Dr. Dre. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, it will be interesting when our generation
Right?
gets older. Like, what will be the classics then?
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe we should just do some words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom
Yeah.
from Pete
Well,
in general.
just in
Don't
general.
be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, don't be afraid. Let me see what else.
Don't be afraid. What was your biggest fear? Doro, what was your biggest fear when starting your clinic?
Failure.
Mm.
To not be recognized as a clinician.
Oh, that's
like almost the
interesting.
imposter syndrome.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Big time.
That's such a big one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not being good enough. Having
That's
people
another big
spend-
one.
Yeah, have people spend money and you can't help them, or you don't live up to their expectations. That was definitely one of my biggest fears initially.
How did you move around that?
Good question. I never thought about it. I really never did. It just kind of went away.
Over time?
Yeah, over time, it just became less and less and less. And then
You
I feel
just
like
kind of ignored it?
I don't know if I ignored it or it just became more comfortable with who I was as a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I started learning that, okay, I'm going to say what I want to say. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen.
Like you were
I felt
afraid
confident.
of, yeah.
I felt more confident who I was as a person, as a treating clinician. And I wasn't afraid to look like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things about working here, is just feeling like I could be myself and ask questions and like think outside the box, and just like that freedom to like just be the curious clinician, you know? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, if you don't have that, sorry, cough drop. If you don't have that curiosity, I mean, how do you even grow?
Yeah. Do you think that's probably what got Pete into research, is just the curious soul that he was?
I don't know.
I keep asking you all the questions.
I don't know. I feel like it's something that he talked about at some point, or if it was just a job.
Mm-hmm.
I remember he told a story when he was working with Dr. Steve Page, and Steve had that question about like the motor control, all that motor learning stuff that was his research, and he shot him down, told him no. And then Steve got the grant, and Pete was like, oh, well, okay, let's go. Let's do it. But he openly admitted on the podcast that he thought something was a bad idea that ended up turning into really important work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not being afraid to admit that.
Yeah, so I think we all have our own ideas. We all can get stuck in our own thinking. And that's why I think it's really important to have your people that you can talk about stuff with, and have people that will tell you the truth. Because being able to receive that and consider it and see where to go. Otherwise, you're just going to stay stuck in that same old hamster wheel type of thing. Right.
Yeah, exactly. You need somebody that you feel comfortable with, that will be honest with you. Exactly. Like you said.
Yeah.
Take that feedback and say, all righty then.
Okay.
What shall we do now?
Well, we're not throwing all of it in the garbage.
There's got to be some therapeutic principles that stay the same. Jeez. It can be so we have a student with us right now, and we're talking about that as well, how sometimes there's such an abundance of information, and some of it seems counterintuitive or even contradictory. It's like they cannot both be correct at the same time. So it can be a lot of information to navigate.
There's this really good, what's her quote? What does she always say?
There are many. Oh, what is it?
Yes, that one.
Yeah, I know. There's more than one way to do.
So there's more than one way.
More than one good way to do something like that. We should text her.
There's more than, yeah, we got to text her.
Go ahead. You want to
I'm
text
completely in the dark, folks.
her? So basically, the idea is that there's more than one way to do a good job at something. She says it way better than we do. We'll get the quote.
Who is she?
One of our students.
Oh, okay.
We have a student.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love
she's a
students.
PhD student. Yeah, I was very hesitant to take on students. I was like,
Wait, she's a what?
I said I was very hesitant to want to take on students. I was like, that sounds scary. I don't want to be responsible for somebody else. What if they ask me any questions? But I
don't know the answers.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
But I've loved it.
Did you say she's a PT student?
No, she's a DOT.
Yeah, a PhD OT.
Oh, okay.
I think she's getting her
Doctorate. Oh, DOT.
Yeah, DOT.
Oh, okay. Doctorate.
So that
Yeah.
post professional doctorate.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're asking her how what the quote is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's good.
It is a good one.
There's more than one right way to look at something wrong. Something like that.
No,
I
that's
don't know.
not it.
There's more than one right. No, we'll just. There's something
We'll
like
just
there's
wait
more
for
than
her.
one right way. There's hold on. There's no perfect way. Several right ways and a few wrong ways.
Oh.
You want to say that again?
Sure. There's no perfect way. Several right ways and a few wrong ways.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Isn't that good?
Yes.
I think that's a good guiding principle for clinicians.
I think
like-
so too.
Especially in neuro.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like definitely figure out what the bad ones are and don't do those.
Yes.
But then you have so much room for the good stuff. And you just need to
Exactly.
explore.
Exactly.
And that's where the don't be afraid came in or from. Just explore.
Mhm.
Don't let anything hold you back.
Yeah.
Just go with your good.
Mm-hmm.
It's all for the greater good. If it doesn't work, so be it. I feel like I say this to my clients all the time. Can I try something on you? And then they
You say
say,
it just like that
Yeah.
too. Do you rehearse that? That
No.
was very weird.
yeah. And then they go, sure. And then I say, well, you know what it means when I ask you if I can try something, right? And they always say, no, what does it mean? And then I tell them, it's like, well, if I said I want to try something, I can't guarantee that it's going to work. It may work. It may not. Are you okay with it? And usually it's a go for it.
Yeah.
And that's how we find out what happens. But
Mhm.
that's my big go-to.
It's so funny.
Can I try something?
You really do say that a lot. That's very funny. It's very true.
I'm just going to qualify this and say that I know this is within clinical reasoning. And because some people, some people who listen, they may take that and think that that means you can just do anything. You have to have solid clinical reasoning
Oh, yes.
behind your reasons for wanting to try something.
Just edit all that out. Take it out. So
Yeah.
nobody can misinterpret. No, I don't want anybody to misinterpret. No, I don't do anything crazy like
Just maybe it's something outside the box that they haven't done before. For example, like self-feeding, which was completely within the norm, but he hadn't done it at all. One of our clients with the right
in
hand.
6 years.
In 6 years.
That man
So,
or that person you were
Yes,
talking about.
Yes.
My goodness.
Yeah,
So
so
of
it's like,
course we want
Can we
to
try?
try
Are
it.
you open with it? Are you okay? Of course, that's what the normal boundaries. But it wasn't something that they had necessarily come here trying to do. They just wanted to move more. Well, this is a highly motivating way for the brain to do what it needs to do.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that brain wants that food. So
Sure does.
positive
So does the
reinforcement,
belly.
yeah. Exactly.
I think.
So yeah, no, nothing crazy outside of the box. But
Yeah, no.
within, we'll have to qualify that. Like you said, everything within the evidence-based scope with good
Yes.
clinical judgment.
Please put a big fat disclaimer
I
in
will.
front of it and after it, just to make sure. But then
Attention.
again, so what if I sound like an idiot?
No.
Well, yeah, and this is the thing with putting yourself out there. Like people can
Yeah.
take stuff out of context.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And there's a reason for these types of conversations,
Mhm.
so that we can keep expanding the box, so that we can open the lids, we can take the sides off, we can do whatever we want.
Mhm.
But information and thoughts can't be misconstrued. or we
Right.
will all get in trouble.
Yeah.
They told me if I would
Super
they told me to try something. I stood on my head.
No, that's not what we said. Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It's so funny too, because we were talking about this earlier, how like as therapists, we're so used to thinking within our scope, like that when we say outside the box, we mean outside the box within that framework. What were we talking about? Oh, we were looking over a brochure for one of our new programs.
Oh, yes.
For the pediatric program. We're doing a pediatric CIMT program.
Ooh.
And we're looking it over and everything looks great to us.
Mhm.
And then we sent it over to a few different people to get feedback. And there was a
That are not
parent that are not
therapists, yeah.
therapists. And there was a parent who says, well,
What are the benefits?
what do I get out of it? You told me what it is. You told me how it works and how long it will take, but you didn't tell me what it's going to do. And we're like, yeah.
We're so in the material that
Right.
when we read it, it makes perfect sense to us, but we
Mhm.
can't read it through the eyes of somebody that's not a clinician.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to get that outside feedback, the outside perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's easy to get that clinician brain,
Mm-hmm.
let that take control, and completely miss the point of
Mhm.
why somebody would want your services.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's why I think it's good even to collaborate, not just amongst therapists, but people kind of outside of your field, maybe things you wouldn't have thought of it that could
Mhm.
work within your framework.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think, Deb, I'm giving you a lot of work and I feel a little bad about it.
Why?
Because we're just, as per usual everywhere. And there's going to be a lot of editing.
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's all
Okay.
right. I love this good stuff. I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay. You sure? There still might be nuggets of wisdom.
There might be more nuggets. And then I tell them, it's like, well, if I said I want to try something, I can't guarantee that it's going to work. It may work. It may not. Are you okay with it? And usually it's like, go for it.
Yeah.
And that's how we find out what happens.
Mhm.
But that's my big go-to.
It's so funny.
Can I try something?
You really do say that a lot. That's very funny. It's very true.
I'm just going to qualify this and say that I know this is within clinical reasoning. And because some people, some people who listen, they may take that and think that that means you can just do anything. You have to have solid clinical reasoning behind your reasons for wanting to try something.
Just edit all that out. Take it out. So nobody can misinterpret. No, I don't want anybody to misinterpret. No, I don't do anything crazy like
just maybe it's something outside the box that they haven't done before. For example, like self-feeding, which was completely within the norm, but he hadn't done it at all. One of our clients with the right hand.
In 6 years.
In 6 years.
That man or that person you were talking about.
Yes.
My goodness.
So of course we want to
can we
try it.
Are you open with it? Are you okay? Of course, that's what the normal boundaries. But it wasn't something that they had necessarily come here trying to do. They just wanted to move more. Well, this is a highly motivating way for the brain to do what it needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that brain wants that food. So
sure does. So
positive
does the belly.
reinforcement. Exactly.
I think.
So yeah, no, nothing crazy outside of the box. But
Yeah, no.
within, we'll have to qualify that. Like you said, everything within the evidence-based scope with good clinical judgment.
Please put a big fat disclaimer
I will.
in front of it and after it, just to make sure. But then
Attention.
again, so what if I sound like an idiot?
Well, and this is the thing with putting yourself out there. Like people can take stuff out of context.
Absolutely.
And, there's a reason for these types of conversations, so that we can keep expanding the box, so that we can open the lids, we can take the sides off, we can do whatever we want. But information and thoughts can't be misconstrued, or we will all get in trouble.
Yeah.
They told me if I would they told me to try something. I stood on my head.
No, that's not what we said.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It's so funny too, because we were talking about this earlier, how like as therapists, we're so used to thinking within our scope, like that when we say outside the box, we mean outside the box within that framework. What were we talking about? Oh, we were looking over a brochure for one of our new programs.
Oh, yes.
For the pediatric program. We're doing a pediatric CIMT program.
Ooh.
And we're looking it over and everything looks great to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sent it over to a few different people to get feedback. And there was a parent that are not therapists. And there was a parent who says, well,
what are the benefits?
what do I get out of it? You told me what it is. You told me how it works and how long it will take, but you didn't tell me what it's going to do. And we're like, yeah.
We're so in the material that when we read it, it makes perfect sense to us, but we can't read it through the eyes of somebody that's not a clinician.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to get that outside feedback, the outside perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get that clinician brain,
Mm-hmm.
let that take control, and completely miss the point of why somebody would want your services.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I think it's good even to collaborate, not just amongst therapists, but people kind of outside of your field, maybe things you wouldn't have thought of that could work within your framework.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think, Deb, I'm giving you a lot of work and I feel a little bad about it.
Why?
Because we're just, as per usual everywhere. And there's going to be a lot of editing.
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. I love this good stuff. I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay. You sure? There still might be nuggets of wisdom.
There might be more nuggets.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We appreciate your support and would love to hear from you. Ask us questions and share your thoughts by email at nogginsandneurons@gmail.com. That's noggins, the word and spelled out, neurons@gmail.com. If you like what you heard, please share this podcast with others you think will benefit. Also be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. We'll catch you next time on Noggins and Neurons, Stroke and TBI Recovery Simplified.